honestly, craziest Zerg vs. Zerg I've seen in an incredibly long time. So, hip hip hooray for awesome games. So Artosis is still playing a little bit passively. Now finally getting some infestors up. Still hasn't quite gotten those upgrades up. And, even though there hasn't quite been a lot of attacking going on in the last little bit, there's a lot of tension with Artosis getting these Brood Lords. And so here's the big mistake. Oh god, all these Mutalisks by Promise. Yeah, there's almost no anti-air, but Corruptors kill Mutalisks so friggin' fast. If Promise had made a bunch of Corruptors instead of a bunch of Mutalisks, I genuinely think he could have annihilated this Brood Lord force. But I think he just wanted a little bit too much ground support. And look at all the infestors. Oh, there's a total whiff on the fungal growth. Another total whiff on the fungal growth. I mean, you honestly can get more than 4 roaches in one fungal growth. So here come some neural parasites on those, but not going to last too long. Moves the Brood Lords back. And Artosis easily going to be able to clean this up with a nice unit mix. Promised leaving the game without even a GG in the style of an American Zerg player we know and love. Sometimes. So yeah, I wanted to talk just a little bit before we jump right into questions about that smooth sprint directly to all the Brood Lords. Because most people would just look at the game state and say, oh yeah, he dealt with a bunch of stuff and then he just, expanded a bunch and went 5 base Roach Brood Lord. Not exactly. And a lot of it has to do with when you're getting what, how. So let's be really explicit instead of talking up in abstract land. So if you have a huge army, like a ton of roaches, like let's say you go 2 base and you just mass roaches, don't even get upgrades, don't even get another expansion, don't even really get any drones. That's what you did. If you sit with that army, you're an idiot, right? Because you wasted all this money getting a big army to stick it in your ears and go and not do anything. Which means that your opponent easily has time to build up a bigger army to expand, to say, look at what you're doing, and say, oh, he made a huge army. Well, I'm just not going to attack. I'm going to build up and upgrade and win later. Because since you have a huge army now, since you have a huge roach army now, I can't kill you now. So that means anytime you do some sort of huge army buildup, you need to do something with that army. Allow me to do some explicit examples, just so you know. And these are obviously dumb, but just so we get a sense of what I'm talking about. If you go 4 Barracks Marauder and get a ton of Marauders out with Stim and the concussive shell, and then you walk to your natural expansion and expand, and you don't attack, what are you doing? That's bad. That's horrible, very bad. We don't like that. That's very ugh. So why else would we get an army so fast, right? You need to do something with it. So in this game, Artosis, he was in a bind, right? So he had to make all these roaches, had to make all these defenses, had to get these spine crawlers up, and had to bounce back and forth between these bases. So sometimes what you can do is you can then just continue making units and get some huge, awesome key unit. In this case, it's the Brood Lord. You can get this key unit that will then that will then be the point where you're just like, oh, okay, cool. I'm finally starting to calm down a little bit now. A Protoss who's doing a lot of aggression can be being aggressive, and then when they get Templar, oh, Storm is so good at defending. Now I can make cannons and get some expansions up. So, oh, finally, my army actually served some nice purpose leading up to this point. Because I think that, and remember, crisis management is the hardest thing in the game. So if you don't do this, that's okay. So, a lot of times when you are in a crisis, if you're a new player, it will be your intuition, your instinct, to just go back to your normal game plan. And that is okay. You will learn situations where that works and doesn't work. But it's just so... It's really hard to... How do I say that? It's really hard to know the timing of, let me rush to Brood Lords, get those out, works with my unit mix. And a lot of times that ends up being something awesome. A game that, a lot of you might want to rewatch was the little one against Nazgul, where the little one, this is from the Team Liquid Invitational, the first one, where the little one was kind of up against a bind and got some battle cruisers out. What a weird unit to get out, right? But it was this big, hulking, beastly unit, kind of like a Broodlord, that allowed him to be enough of a threat that he kind of got the chance to calm down a little bit more after he got this huge threatening unit. Little one was up against the wall, had to make a lot of unit, had to make a lot of defense, but then got these battle cruisers out. So that was sweet. So if any of you are curious about what is going on in the mind of Artosis, I will happily take. I will speak on his behalf. So yes. Oh yeah, here's a great question by Plex. PLX Dratuka. I butchered that, and I stand by it. So in Zerg, how do you feel about not opening with Zergling Baneling, but doing something like Mass Queens or Nidus into Mutalisks? Yeah, I definitely don't think that Zergling Baneling is at all necessary in the matchup, and more importantly, I don't even think that it's gonna stay normal. I think that what happens, and this happens a lot in mirror matchups throughout time, so here's some funny examples where people figure out some cool, cheesy, bullshitty opening, and they go, "Oh, this is awesome," and they start doing it, and then all of a sudden everyone catches on, and then everyone's just doing it to each other, and it becomes stupid. For any of you who remember, people used to not make vultures in Terran vs. Terran in Brood War. This is in like the 2004-ish, 2003 or 4-ish era. When Zelos was really big, no one made vultures. It was just Tank Goliath. And then people realized that you could get a ton of vultures out and kill your opponent early on. So you had these mass vulture wars where people were just throwing vultures at each other, and Terran vs. Terran looked... It was retarded. It just was. But of course, people smoothed it out, and now we have cool, interesting play. Some possible openings you could do alternatively. Get roaches at your ramp to block. Get roaches back in your main and turtle up a little bit more. Even get some spine crawlers. Get Mutalisks really fast. You can expand. Do Zelnique style opening where you early expand, get 2 queens fast, and get 2 spine crawlers fast before you even get gas, and that's pretty safe. A lot of cool, interesting stuff going on. Lot of cool things. So yeah, Multigrain says, Dear Day 9, I saw that Promise neglected to finish off all of Artosis' tech building after the first Nidus. That could have been Artosis, that could have had Artosis with no way to produce any more defense. Was this a big mistake? So, this reminds me of when I remember I was at WCG 2005 and I was asking Testy all these questions, and he said, dude, just do the things that you know are good. Just trust yourself, and I definitely agree with a lot of things that Multigrain says, and honestly, I think it's totally a mistake that Promise, he should have killed those off. And if your instinct told you, why didn't he kill those off? That's really bad. Just trust your instinct. You can question it from time to time a little bit, but obviously killing off essential tech structures is going to be good, and Artosis definitely would have been screwed. And that's why I was just so impressed with Artosis' ability to stay calm and rebuild all the tech structures, some of which were still alive. He rebuilt the spawning pool when he still had a live spawning pool, and he rebuilt the Roach Warren because he was worried about his spawning pool dying. I would have been doubly impressed if he'd squeezed that Spire out on time as well, right before it died. But that's an example of the sort of, crisis management that takes a very, very hard time to sort of deal with. Here's a great question by Not Jack BNet. Says, Professor Plot, what was one of the main aspects of Artosis' crisis management that helped him win that game? It seems like most of it was due to his opponent making many mistakes after he got the main. So I do think that I would probably say after 15 minutes, Artosis was in great shape, and he's probably going to win. So let's ignore everything past that point. So what happened up to that 15-minute mark? So yeah, there were some mistakes by his opponent, but there's 2 key things that I really like that Artosis did. One, in the midst of having his main die, right, in the midst of it being in the worst possible situation, he was being extraordinarily active with his Zerglings. There were 1 or 2 spots where there were Zerglings and Banelings going into Promise's main that I even missed, because there was action going on in multiple spots. but Artosis was so active about not just killing stuff with his Zerglings and Banelings, but scouting with his Zerglings and Banelings. In a huge battle, Artosis still sends the Zergling up to the Xel'Naga Watchtower to check out what's up and has a good sense of what's going on. And the second thing I really liked is how Artosis dealt with that bottom expansion. He snuck in that expansion, but after it was up and running, Artosis treated it as though his opponent knew about it. He built those spine crawlers. He had the creep marching towards each other, so that way he could get it up very, very quickly and have good defense, and that helped him on numerous occasions. So if I had to say two things, one is to just be active and be doing stuff back at your opponent and checking him. And the second one is to be very calm and clear-headed with your expanding patterns. Protoss My Salad says, Dear Day 9, how do you pick your questions to answer? By scrolling, looking, and picking and choosing pretty ad hoc. If there's a big block, grab one in the middle, and I kind of scan through and get some keywords that seem pretty sexy, and then I just read it. Yeah.